5 against South Carolina. As you guys know, South Carolina and Utah played Sunday at 2:30 p.m. on ESPN, and South Carolina won the game by a score of 78-69, and that score is pretty representative of the margin of the game. And it was a contested game, but by about midway through the third quarter, you could tell that South Carolina was physically imposing their will on Utah, just like they've done with every other team so far this year. And watching South Carolina play, and it wasn't South Carolina's best game. Listen, we have to remember South Carolina shot 66% from the free throw line. They did shoot 54% from the field, but they had 23 turnovers, which is well above their season average of 10. And so watching the game, you realize that South Carolina isn't playing well. The starting point guard, Raven Johnson, who's averaging 12 points on the season, only had 2 points, 1 of 6 from the field. Tahina Paopao had 15 points. She's been the most consistent player for South Carolina. Bree Hall has 7 points, which is also below her season average. Kimberly Cardoza had 17 points, which is below her season average. Chloe Kitts had 11 points, which is about right on par for her average of 12. But Malaysia Wiley had 11 points coming off the bench, and she shot 3 of 3 from the three-point line. However, she had 4 turnovers in 11 minutes. And watching her play, she has a lot of potential, a lot of spark. She just has to get to continue to learn how to play the game. Right now, she's doing what she does purely off of really talent and just feel for the game. But once she starts to get a feel for the collegiate, because she's playing with not just with the best program in women's college basketball, but also she's playing in one of the toughest conferences in women's college basketball, being the SEC. So these growing pains are expected of her, but she has a lot of potential, and I see the upside in her. Once she learns to control pace, play with pace, and learn not just where she's going to be most efficient, but how to get there, picking and choosing her spots, she's going to be an amazing point guard. But just like with any freshman point guard, especially in women's college basketball, it takes time to develop, it takes time to get there. Snia Fagan had 3 points coming off the bench. Ashley Watkins had 8 points. And it was a balanced attack for South Carolina, seeing that their players that you expect to score 15, 20 plus points were a little below that average. But this will make South Carolina so good. They're so deep. They can go 11 deep and not miss a beat. And if we look at Utah shot 45% from the field, 25% from the three-point line, 72% from the free throw line, had 17 turnovers. Listen, the thing with Utah, it's kind of been their issue all year is depth. Ever since they lost their starting two guard, I forget her name, they lost her to a foot injury. They talked about how Utah, in that locker room, they said that everyone has to get 5% better. And in that game against South Carolina, there wasn't much production outside of Young and Pili. Listen, their starting point guard, though, Inez Vieta, had 5 points and 7 assists, 5 steals, very productive, filled the role very well. However, she shot 2 of 9 from the field. McQueen had 6 points. She shot 3 of 11 from the field, 0 5 from the three-point line. And I listen, with Utah, their 3-point percentage is going to be always skewed because now start to get into the analytic aspect of it. They follow what the casual NBA fan will know as the Mike D'Antoni system, or the no mid-range system. Very analytical, and they showed a shot chart and during the game and talked about how the staff of Utah, the basketball program, will blow like a blowhorn if players shoot a mid-range. And when they say mid-range, they mean like right outside the painted area or long two. They'll blow a blowhorn when a player shoots that to condition them to not shoot that shot. And what happens is it allows you to create space because now you have to put 5 shooters out on the court, right? To to fit your program. But what happens is it becomes easier to guard over the course of 40 minutes. Because basketball is a game of runs. Very rarely is the team you're playing not going to go on a run. And there will be games where you shoot extremely well, as Utah has done. Listen, they're 8-2 on the season. But then you're going to have a game like this where you shoot 25% from a three-point line, and you have to have something that you can go to compensate for that poor shooting from the outside, coupled with the fact that it's hard to get penetration at times because you have Cardozo, who's 6'7". So by you completely taking away the mid-range, you're living and dying by the three, and I'm sure that's the system that they're willing to accept that. But what happens is you start to hurt the development of these players. And I'm not, from my perspective and as a coach and as a player, I would never do that all or nothing three-pointer layup system, that Mike D'Antoni system, because it becomes difficult to guard. Or sorry, it becomes easy to guard as a player because I know you're not going to shoot that mid-range. So I can shade you as a defender, especially if you're a non-shooter. One, I'm just going to give you space. I'm going to dare you to shoot it. But if I know you're a commensurate shooter, I can close out strong enough to, with enough shade and space to give you the lane. But I know that all I have to do is make you turn 2 or 3 times, because I know you're just straight line. You're trying to get to the rim. So when I cut you off, I can either cut you off and force you back to the sideline, or force you strictly to the baseline, or I can just give you bump in the body because I know you're just trying to get to the paint, and that should make it easier for me to draw an offensive foul as a player. And what happens is it hurts the development of these players because now they no longer get to develop that third dimension of their game. Now, we talk about all the time, great scorers, great players can score from 3 levels consistently: the inside, the mid-range, and the three-point line. And what happens is these players aren't able to develop that because they're not allowed to shoot those kind of shots. But what happens if these women aspire to play at the next level, whether it be in the WNBA or overseas, you have to develop that third dimension of the mid-range, because if you get a player that closes out hard on you and you get to your mid-range, but then the paint just walls up and clogs because they know you're only trying to get to the paint, you have to be able to shoot that mid-range, or at least that floater, to keep the defense honest. And I was watching one particular play, because I know there's some people in the comment section that are going to talk about this, that Utah player had the ball at three-point line. The defender from South Carolina closed out on them, gave a pump fake, sidestepped, shot the ball, missed it. In that moment, I said, man, as a coach, I would tell them to get to the mid-range. Missed the shot, get an offensive rebound, kicks it back out to the same player. Player shoots it again, hits the three-pointer. And so in that moment, I know people are going to say, well, that's the analytical aspect. That's why you only shoot threes, because you get the long rebound, you get the crash, and kick it out again, then you play your chances. From an analytical standpoint, sure, that one play might validate that. But there were countless times I saw during this game where players like like Wilkie and Vieira and McQueen and even Pili, to an extent, they had so many opportunities to get to the mid-range, whether it be a quick 2-dribble pull-up or a floater. Especially with Vieira, she had so many opportunities to get to her floater, but didn't, because of the system that they run. And I'm not knocking the system. I'm not knocking it, because players are bought in and their head coach is running it well if you were to run that system. It's just my perspective and how I understand the game of basketball and how I've played it and how I currently play it. It just hinders these players' development. And so to get back to Pili, watching Pili yesterday, finally watching her live, Pili's one of the best players in women's college basketball. In my opinion, she's no question top 10, borderline top 6 player in women's college basketball. And she's 6'2", and she plays the 4 and the 5, and she's kind of a tweener. And people will question what position she's going to play in the WNBA. I don't care what position she's going to play. She's going to be a basketball player. She's going to be she's going to be a hooper. She's just going to be able to play, because what happens is, listen, she had 37 points and 3 steals, 1 block. She's not the best rebounder. At least according to last night, she had 2 rebounds, but I believe she's averaging about 7 or 8 rebounds. So for a position, she's an average rebounder. But what we see now is she's going to have a mismatch, especially at the next level. If you put her out on the wing, you have her be a 3, maybe even a 2. She's going to have a mismatch because of her size, because of her physicality. But if you put her inside, her quickness and her footwork, she's gonna have a mismatch against those players. But what happens is, Pili's a great shooter. She's a good enough shooter to keep defenders honest. And so I believe she shot 50% from the 3-point line yesterday, which is great for a big. I don't think she's a big. She's just a player. She's a basketball player. And she did a great job of attacking Cardozo, attacking her hip right away, making her turn, and getting all to the paint. But when they put players like South Carolina put multiple players on Pili. They put Chloe Kitts on her. They put Ashley Watkins, Sanaya Fagan. Obviously, I said Cardozo. I think Ashley Watkins probably did the best job defending Pili because Watkins is also pretty quick and athletic. And I would, based on my scouting, I would say Ashley Watkins is probably the most accurate depiction of what Pili is going to get in the WNBA in terms of athleticism and ability to move laterally. So watching Pili go up against Watkins did a good job of beating Pili to her spot, but there were many times where Pili would struggle against Watkins. I say struggle in quotations because she had 37 points. However, adding a mid-range spot up to Pili's game would be phenomenal, because I can count on on 2 hands the number of times Pili would catch the ball from about 2 or 3 steps above the free throw line, or 2 steps, sorry, about 1 or 2 steps above the free throw line, and then not look to shoot, kick it back out, and then relocate to 3 to shoot that catch and shoot 3, as opposed to shooting the catch and shoot from that free throw line extended area. And that's just another shot you add to your game to keep the defense honest. And obviously, I don't have to talk about her footwork is bar none. She probably has, her footwork is up there with Liz Kitley and Cameron Brink in terms of low post players that have some of the best footwork in the game. But Pili's size and physicality and her ability to cut angles on her drive is what separates her from pretty much every other player in women's college basketball. She plays her angles so well. Like I said, her physicality is phenomenal. Great touch around the rim. And adding that mid-range, that ability to shoot off the pull-up, it doesn't have to be anything tremendous. Like, it doesn't have to be on the level of a Raven Johnson or of a Caitlin Clark or of a Georgia Amor, because obviously these are guards. But if she can just add a 2-dribble pull-up or 1-dribble pull-up to her game and a floater, in the mid-range, it diversifies her game and keeps the defense honest. And I think that's what's going to turn her, because she's currently now averaging 23 points per game, but shooting efficiently at 75% from the field, which is astronomical. Once she gets to the W, obviously those points will dissipate slightly, but adding that dimension in the mid-range to Pili's game, that can turn her into, in my opinion, based on what I've seen so far, turn her into a 22 point per game scorer in her rookie season, because she already has the physicality, and she's only going to more into that professional body, and she's still going to maintain the strength. So it's no question to me that Pili is one of the best players in women's college basketball. But like I said, and like I led off with in the show, her system she plays in is whether, and obviously not intentional, is going to be a hindrance to her development, just like it's going to be a hindrance to development for teammates as well, because you're completely cutting off one crucial aspect of the game, and that's the mid range. And like I said, great shooters, great scorers, great players can be a threat from inside, from outside, and from the mid range. And when we completely take away the mid range, it makes you easy to guard. It makes you almost robotic. But and I'm not trying to attack this Mike D'Antoni system and the analytical system, but when has the analytics ever won a championship? It might be successful for an extended period of time, whether that be over the course of a season or the course of a couple of years, but does it ever really win? It never. Name me one team that's won in basketball, women's, men's, collegiate, professionally, that has won based off this analytic system, and it hasn't. No one has. And there's a reason why. Because when it comes to the NCAA tournament and it comes to playoffs, things get into a half court set, and it's easy to run that system in the fast break when you're running the break all the time. And one thing I will say about Utah, they do a good job running the system in the half court, but even when you play against a team that's extremely physical like South Carolina, teams are going to get in the tournament, they know how to guard that. And like I said, I'm not a proponent of it, but Utah runs it pretty successfully, depending on what you measure as success. But I think any team, any player, doesn't matter, Utah, whatever, it could be any team at any level that runs that analytics system, it hurts the development of those players, because you're completely taking away their ability to score from one of the most important parts of the court, the mid-range. But once again, that's only my perspective as a current professional basketball player and a coach as well. But let me know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to hear all about it. But no question, Alissa Pili is by far, no question, top 10 player in women's college basketball. I say she's more closer to 7 than 10, but she will definitely be drafted in the first round in the top 10 come next April in the WNBA draft. But guys, in our next segment, we're going to be talking about another standout player, this time on the men's side in the NBA, Mr. Tyrese Halliburton. What is causing his success this year, and what is Indiana doing to foster that? So be sure to stick around for that, guys. You're not going to miss it. We'll be right back.